So now I'm going to create one more. I want to do a transfer just so you can see how it works itself out. And you know what? I had a savings account. I didn't even know I had a savings account. I've been working with these people for a while and they barely told me I have a savings account. So now, savings.
Now, once again, just so you know, we do encrypt anything that we feel is sensitive. We encrypt it for storage, but when you're actually showing it, it depends on if you actually need it. Like even in Adilas, I put my physical bank number and routing number in there. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone. What account does this come from? So instead of like, let me go scramble for the checkbook type thing, I'm just like, that's 555, or whatever, you know, like, I like the information, but you can do whatever you want. The actual numbers themselves don't do anything. It's just for your reference, but we do encrypt your storage.
Some people.
Question,
Yes.
just because you're on the topic of storage. We upload like all these things. I think our Adilas has like 2+ years of info already on it. What do you do? You guys have like backup servers? Like, what's your main sources with that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. What actually happens there is basically we hire a commercial hosting company to do it, and then we pay for a backup plan. So what it is they keep 2 weeks of constant rolling backups off-site. So every single night, the entire system is backed up from top to bottom, and then basically they take that and hold it off-site. So we have a 2-week rolling backup of all of the data that's kind of going on. We also personally store it, and we have our own little, it's virtually a bank vault. So we pull down data, and we stick it into a bank vault, all of the code, all of the different things like that. So that's the way we play the backup game. But it really is real, it really is serious, but basically we use a commercial hosting company that has all sorts of bio entrances and like all kinds of crazy stuff, and hot and cold rows. It's a server farm, basically. That's where the data resides, and then they do the commercial backup plan for us. Okay? That's kind of how things work.
And all my 6 years, I've never had it to where it was like the system crashed or it was down or Adilas put it down or something, and everybody's like, what do we do? What do we do? I've never had that happen. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, too.
Doesn't mean it can't. Okay?
Right, exactly.
Okay, correct. So, like, sometimes there are things outside of our even control.
Mm-hmm.
Even if Adilas is completely stable, if it's in a huge data center, like their whole job is protecting data. That's what they do. But what if you had a major hack event? Like people get tired. Like even if I'm pulling the P&L, that's a pretty big report. Okay. Well, eventually a human's going to get tired after even a couple minutes of doing that. A computer, if you have enough computers and they're all basically in sync and doing this, you can actually have some major problems because computers don't necessarily get tired until they run out of either energy or electricity or whatever, okay? So there are some enemies that we can't fight in a way, if that makes sense. Okay, this is a cyber world, so that is potential either drawback. There's so many benefits. Boy, we're going to try to secure this as much as we possibly can, but we have to know that we can't play in a perfect bubble all the time. So that's how we kind of play that game. So it is one of the pieces of dealing with internet.
Some people won't want to put their bank account numbers, but they'll want to know which account because they might have like 3 different savings, 3 bank accounts. They may all even be for the same corporation, but they may have like 4 different stores and each one has its own.
That's pretty
you know.
right there.
So a lot of people will ask us to put like the last, or they'll all recommend to put the last 4 numbers from the account, just so in accounting you can kind of see which bank it is real fast. You could do that too. So I just did it just for the sake of doing it. What I'm going to do before we do the whole transfer thing is I'm going to do expense receipts because I don't want to run out of time. So again, we were working in the assets for money coming in the door. Now we're going to work on money going out. We're going to go to our expense receipt homepage and our liabilities because this is a cost to us for something. And we are actually going to, do you want to pay a PO? That results in a payment, right?
Yep.
Okay, when you're writing a bill, like say just to pay a monthly bill or maybe to pay somebody that did contract labor that came in and washed your windows or, you know, some little type thing. It could be a $3 fee at your bank. You have a bank service charge every month, $3. That's an expense. It's just an expense. It's not related to inventory. It's an expense. But you can have your purchased stuff that you bought to sell, your inventory. You always want to go to your payables, which is going to be in the same spot in the liabilities because it's money going out. And you can go to your payables homepage. You always want to pay your stuff out of your payables. You don't want to just create an expense because you want to take it out of your payables. You want to take it out and pay it so the system knows, you know what, you're paying things off. Bookkeepers and accountants will start wanting to make sure their payables get smaller and smaller and smaller. Once you start learning the system and you start using it and you're just plugging away, putting expenses, putting deposits, putting whatever, you know, as you're putting the expenses, the purchase orders in and stuff, you're going to start getting payables in there. And you know what? Maybe somebody's entering a bunch of bills for you, but they're not doing the back end of it, of like, you know, when things are paid. Or they're entering a bunch of purchase orders, back purchase orders in, but they're not saying when you paid the vendor. You know, it depends on what's going on, but you can start building them up. Maybe you
Think
have
assembly line again, okay? Think assembly line.
pieces. Maybe you have your secretary or your admin or somebody, and they're putting all the bills that come in the mail, and they're just saying, you know, okay, there they are, and then maybe the bookkeeper or the owner is looking on their end and saying on their payables, okay, look, we need to pay the electricity, we need to pay this, we need to pay that, and then they call their person and say, hey, you know what, go ahead and send those 3 out. Well, then, you know, then the person can come in the payables and start paying them off. Looks like we owe a little bit of money here, and who do we want to pay? Let's pay Lush Lighting. We owe them a lot of money. They're probably wondering what's going on. So, you know, maybe we have an agreement with them where we can keep getting stuff on consignment, but we have to pay $5,000 a month. That's that. So what do you do when you have like a $2,700, $3,700, $4,600 payment and you only want to pay $5,000? Okay, that's fine. We're paying it today. We can actually manipulate the numbers that are in these boxes here in white to whatever it needs to be. So if we are only going to pay, we want to usually work at the oldest item and go down. Maybe this was done in July, this was in August,
So you can
whatnot.
actually see some ages as well on the far right side there. It's kind of
Here?
starting to kind of say, hey, just so you know, like, here's how old I am right now, just so you can kind of have a little ticker there.
Okay.
And also, I can see a potential problem. How come we can't click on those things, Roxanne?
I just realized that. This will be where you're going to start telling your people that are that are creating the purchase orders, verify your stuff. If you don't verify your stuff, I'm not going to be able to pay it.
So once again, like receipt. It basically is like, here's a PO. Like I can hammer an appeal super, super fast. When I actually say, okay, I'm going to verify, it's almost the same thing as what we do when a bank transaction gets verified. Yes, that is correct. And it kind of locks it for that underlying piece, okay? So the whole thing was set up so it could kind of do the assembly line type deal, okay? So say I have Shannon slamming in my POs, okay? And then I'm the manager, or maybe I give her the correct permission. She's working, oh, she gets called out on the floor, like it's not done yet. So I don't want to be paying something that isn't totally complete. It's her way of saying, done, complete, lock it down so that anybody lower than my level of permission can no longer play with that particular piece.
So in the creation,
it's a virtual lock.
in the creating the PO though, we have the choice of saying physically in our
Yes, sir.
presence or hasn't been delivered yet. But that's different than the verification.
That's even different. That's basically that first level, like, hey, I'm just going to order this. Hey, I got it. I received it. Yes, that is correct. It's kind of like even the third spot. Like, cool, I'm authorizing this to be paid. So like you can see how the checkboxes aren't authorized yet, but there's some little things under the verified column that says not yet, not yet, not yet. She could literally, if she was doing it, she could cycle through it if she needed to.
Because you can have somebody putting in a purchase order because you know you're getting a shipment in of something, and you can create the purchase order because you know that that's what you're getting. You can actually receive that product into your store for the sake of maybe the next person needs to start building invoices, customer invoices, because they know they've already had requested information in orders. They could start doing that, but not until, and by doing that, yes, you click that button in your purchase order that says, yes, I have them in my possession, because if you say, no, you don't, you can't make an invoice. But just to get ahead of the game and get your orders ready before it all actually happens, you could say, yes, they're in my possession, even though maybe you don't have them, just so they're in the system. And then your next person could start creating those customer invoices because your sales guy is going to go deliver all this stuff. So they're creating all them invoices because it says you have them in your possession. And then you get that order in today, and you don't have to sit there and do all them steps. You can just grab your invoices and you can go. But once that happens, you need, somebody to be able to pay that bill. I mean, you owe for whatever. So if you see the verified not yet, maybe you might have passed it out and you didn't know. Well, like he was saying, you can't click on here. You can't select to pay your money. So you go to edit on that specific PO.
Actually, let's
Click not yet.
Yep, click on not yet. Let's send you in that route, just
Yeah.
because that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
You have to have the permission
So-
to see this.
So we're going to say, okay, this was actually done on the 22nd. We'll say that was one of those scenarios where, you know, we just put it in because we wanted to be able to make invoices, blah, 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 right? Because we had some 1023 invoices. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to verify it for the 23rd. And what is that saying? That's saying a check mark means that it's verified and okay to pay. That's the key. You're okay to pay that PO to whoever. So now it says it's verified. So now we're going to verify.
Just so you know, like on deposits and stuff, you want a deposit date, and the verify date actually means something in accounting. When did that? When was I an outstanding and I knew about it, and when did the bank know about it? On a PO, it's just a lock. So like literally, if you had to blow through there really fast and you knew everything was good to go, you could be like, verify for today, verify for today, verify for today. It doesn't actually affect the accounting per se. It still holds that date, but it's not like, oh, this automatically makes it mean this. Like, it's not quite as deep as like say on a deposit or an expense, but it is the physical lock date. Yes, this is good data. Please approve it. What it does is it virtually creates, it advances that ball into that next little bubble there and says anybody who had just basic information, they can no longer play with that PO. They can just look at it. They can no longer modify it or add to it. Okay.
So now we have the, what do you say, $5,000 maybe? We're going to select this one because it's $2,700. We're going to select this one, but we're going to manipulate and change the amount because we don't want to pay $37.50.
There's a calculator right there next to you if you want. So what you would basically do is you'd go like this, $5,000 minus 2,700 equals, and then you scratch out the 3750 and put in the.
So it doesn't do it like it did yesterday for us?
Not in this particular.
Not in when
section.
you're paying POs.
Tell them what we're gonna pay.
Yeah.
On the last one we did, and you put in how much, and then you clicked on all three, and it automatically adjusted everything
Correct.
that we were.
And so basically, if we're like, oh my goodness, that would be awesome, then we say, Shannon, can you please add us in a note that we need to do that? Like right here, this is just a little calculator action because you're kind of semi-splitting a payment. And we're not sure. We don't even know what your total was right here. That's why we can't really do the math. Like, there's nowhere that says, hey, I'm going to pay $5,000. Can you split this for me? Like, you just know that in your head. So that's why the system kind of like, here's your field. What do you want to do? That's why it's not doing the math.
So we went ahead and selected that. We have the $5,000 initially. We're going to hit pay. Now that's going to flip you right into an expense. Now you're paying off your POs for these amounts, and it's going to total the full payment and a partial payment of $5,000. Down here, we're going to say that we're paying it today. It's the $5,000. Most of this populates already. It'll actually throw in notes for you that says what POs it's going to pay, and then you just select how we're going to pay it. Well, we are going to pay it by,
In the notes,
I don't know if we have
where it
much
says
cash.
payments for POs number
No.
7, can you
Yes.
put right there?
Partial
put
pay.
in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can, whatever you want to do.
Actually,
It just kind of throws it in there
just so you know as well, why don't you scroll up for a second, Roxanne?
where it says partial.
There, see that little button that says Show Printable Report? If you click on that little Show Printable Report button, come down a little bit, right there in the middle, smack dab in the middle. So you click on that, basically what it does is it opens, and you can go print if you wanted to, and you can actually send this with them, because this actually shows what the invoice number was for, like, if the invoice number for the
Instead of
vendor was
all
important.
this.
Yeah, it basically kind of is a little printer-friendly version of that, but you could totally put partial in the notes, that's not a problem.
So what that will do, and you can make extra notes or whatever you want to do in here too. We're going to say it was a check, why not? And we're going to say maybe $1,100. And we're going to say that it was for inventory.
Perfect.
We're going to create it.
Now you'll
Now
notice
it
that
creates an
that
expense.
had a little type called BS Special Expense, okay? That's saying I'm paying off inventory, which is already tracked on the balance sheet.
Affecting your balance sheet, everything's building your P&L. So within these expense receipts now, they all are assigned a number. It's the same thing kind of as a deposit in the sense that everything up top, the who, the when, the how much, is the main portion of an expense. So if you ever need to change the main portion, maybe you know what, it wasn't Lush Lighting I paid, because Lush Lighting is the name of the company, but I have to make checks payable to Lush Corporation.
Yeah.
You can actually go to change right here within the main part of the expense receipt. You can hit change for this one expense. It doesn't have to be, you can say Lush, and it's not that. I want to create one that,
See how the link on the left said assigned to receipt? So what it does is it's kind of saying, hey, I'm going to help you. Why don't you go search? Like if you needed to like It's basically just, so she's just creating a quick little new vendor right here.
Okay, so now I've switched it. Because you know what? I bought the stuff from, my PO numbers are right here to click on if I want to look. I bought them from Lush Lighting, but they don't want me to pay that. They have me pay it this way. You can even do that within the system.
See, she's being pretty tricky, but she's just kind of showing you some of the different pieces of the puzzle.
You may not retain none of this or most of it, but that's fine because you'll start messing with it and you'll see how flexible it is.
I think it's great because like if I was teaching it, we would have just kind of do basic things. But if you watch Roxanne do it, you're like, oh my goodness, I can do that, or I can do that. There's tons of options, tons of options.
Or you could tell Roxanne slow your roll because sometimes I just get a little like, I'm just trying to bring up scenarios. You know, if you think of any, just shout them out because there's tons of scenarios.
So,
You
so
know
check
that.
this out. Remember how we were talking this morning about you have characters and they have relationships? This is a brand new character. Okay, scroll up to the top. I see the expense receipt number 2 is the new character. It's now tied to a vendor called Lush Corp. It's also, scroll down a little bit in the line items, tied to 2 separate POs. Like we're creating all sorts of relationships in order to pay this off. And if you scroll even lower, I'm even tied to a bank. And I pulled that $5,000 out, and I'm ready to put the check. Are we ready? Like multiple relationships are being created because it's an object. It's not a physical row or column type thing. Okay, it's a physical object you're creating.
What if the partial payments, number 10, does go to Lush Lighting?
Okay, you'd
We
want
make
to
it separate. We do
That's
it
a separate expense.
separate.
Right.
Where's it really going?
Right.
The actual PO can accept any payments from any different way, but like it just wants to know that eventually gets paid off. It doesn't care if half had to go here or half had to go there. It wants to eventually. If you actually scroll down just a little bit so we go to 10, click on PO number 10 for just a second. Click on payments. You can see that it says, hey, just so you know, I'm currently not paid. I'm still owed $1,450. Okay.
I was actually going to show you that too in your, let me back up. I wanted to show you within your payables because maybe you know what, you need to pay some more bills or you're going back in there. It'll reflect what's what. Who did we pay? Lush. Now you can see the balance went down. It also breaks down your money here if you can see the different blue links. What if there was an REI? What if, you know, you had like one of the owners and they went and bought something with cash and you have to pay them back? We can do an example of that and it'll pop up in the REI field because we have to pay them back. It's a reimbursement. Then you have the POs. Right now we're dealing with a bunch of POs. That's kind of what we created and that's what we're kind of working with to pay. Then it'll still calculate right here. It says ultimately in the beginning you owed them way more money. Then you made some payments or whatever you did. This was the total that was owed. These are the payments. This is what we do owe. It kind of breaks it down in different scenarios. It tells you completely in your payables, this is how much money you owe right now to whoever for whatever reason. It'll start just putting that number down, putting that number down. But say you went into Lush later because you pay them $5,000 every month and now it's time to pay them again. You just click on the POs again and it actually shows that number 10 and how much is left. So now what you do, you would go ahead and select that. You would figure the difference between the 5,000, do the same exact thing. It keeps track of everything for you. Say we only paid 1,000 today. We hit pay. It already populated all that in there. We're doing check 1,300 maybe. It's the invoice. Inventory. Okay, now we have a brand new one in there.
Why don't you just scroll down and click on the PO10. We're still not paid off on that thing.
Right.
Well, watch this. It'll basically say, hey, I've got two payments now that have been applied. And here's where they were, and here's their expense.
Still owed.
The whole thing is kind of creating these relationships, okay?
And it's just another way to look at the amount owed. I always go to my payable just because of the fact that I'm always in there making sure it's shrinking. So if you click on Lush Lighting again, you're going to see, now look, we only owe them $5,100. You know, it's always going to be reflected in your payables of what you're doing. You always want to pay attention to your payables so that you don't skip anything. So now if we look at the P&L, now it's going to start showing some different stuff.
So hang on just a second. One, we did do a couple expenses. The P&L hasn't really been modified that much. We were talking accounts payable and accounts, so that's actually balance sheet. The P&L currently sitting there, oh, that wasn't mine, I'm not even worried. Okay, because we are paying off inventory. If you scroll down, we don't have that much for expenses. Scroll way, way down to the bottom for expenses. Under expenses, we have nada right now.
But it will show the Lush Lighting.
Okay, so that's actually cost of goods for things that were on invoices right there. So what was actually happening is if you went to your balance sheet and you checked your payables, instead of owing them X thousands of dollars, we just depleted that by 6,000. Okay, so that piece went down. It's on your balance sheet, snapshot.
So I can show now an expense that is not inventory related.
Perfect. So this
Create
is
an
just like
expense.
she calls it a straight expense, which is basically I got paid for something.
This is going to be my telephone bill, and it's going to be through Sprint, and they're not in there. And I'm just going to say, you know, this is their address. They are in.
So often if you have generic things like we do a lot of like gas receipts and restaurants and stuff like that. So instead of putting in Chili's and Mickey D's and Wendy's and stuff like that, we go like this: vendor, restaurant, okay? Location, anywhere. State, any. You know, like
Just to get the money in, get the numbers, get the.
basically what we want to do is eventually, like, if we want to, like, we're not physically writing checks to Chili's or this or that. We might just want to kind of categorize it like, hey, this is just general gas and I need it back from me type thing.
So you can also do travel expense.
Yeah, however you're doing it, depending on if you're doing reimbursements or actually having somebody run a credit card and putting it on what's called a split, which is you still owe it back or whatever. So there's lots of ways you can play the game.
So I'm just adding Sprint, and you can get very detailed. You can put the website from their bill, you can put their email, you can put the account number, whatever you want to put. The more the better, because in the accounting and in the reporting, it's gonna help your bookkeeper or accountant to piece things together that maybe they are not there to see, but in the end they can figure it out. This bill was for July, this was for whatever. I'm big about making notes on everything, because then it helps your person in the back end that isn't there all the time. So I'm going to say I paid this today, and I paid
So Hannah, just one second.
$120.
Can you scroll up to the tippy top of the page? In case you ever get lost, there's always a title at the top of the page. So like, if you're like, where in the heck am I? Start at the top up by the logo, and it'll say add edit expense receipt. Oh, okay, cool. Now I know where I'm at. So then you can kind of play from there.
So all we did was just create like a fictitious vendor. We said Sprint, and we're saying we're paying a phone bill for $120. You can put telephone for July. I mean, whatever. You want to be specific in your notes. If you're a bookkeeper or accountant, you need to know what's going on so you can keep track and whatnot. This is where, you know what, maybe I have somebody doing some data entry for me, and you know what, I don't want them to mess with my account types, because then they can just be creating things or doing whatever. Maybe they don't have that permission. Well, they can create an expense, but they can't mess with account types. So I'm just saying, you know what, I'm not even sure, but the top section again of an expense receipt is the main section of the receipt. What, when, who, how much. The middle section is going to be the meat of the expense, you know, how much it was and where that money went. Was it for telephone? Was it utilities? Was it fees? Was it whatever you have going on? You know,
Which
inventory.
location,
I mean, yeah,
which
however your accountant wants you to set up your chart of accounts per se. Like in other systems, it's a chart of accounts. However you want to set that up. You can be as specific to a location as well, because you know what, maybe you have somebody that's getting paid, maybe you're making this expense receipt for a contract labor person, and you 1099 them at the end of the year, or maybe they worked for you one time this year, not even going to give them a 1099, but they did contract labor at your warehouse, they didn't do it at your store. You could actually select warehouse, you know, whatever, to differentiate in the system where this money's going and for what.
correct. So very similar to what Mick said as far as the accounting being kind of a numeric system. In order to do multiple locations, you would have 2000 something something dash 002, 2000 something something dash 003 or whatever. Like that's how you would kind of differentiate like a location. What we do is we're like, in English, tell us which bucket, tell us which location, cool, game on. Like it's very dynamic, so it allows it to kind of, we speak English in this way.
So when you start the expense receipt and you create it, as you know, it kind of populates some of the themes. What I always like to do is whatever I put in that expense type at the bottom in the main part of the expense, I copy it so I can paste it, because all it does is drop everything down from here to the middle section, the line items. But just because, you know, I work with the back end and the money, I always put the same notes in the payment notes. It's optional, so it doesn't populate it down there. I always do that so I could see it in any type of screen or report or whatever I'm looking at. I always do that. If this would be the scenario where, say, you know what, your manager, secretary, admin, whoever was, anybody, your wife, the owner, somebody was putting in a bill, but they weren't going to pay it yet, they don't want to forget, they want it to show in the payables so they remember, you can just select on account, kind of like you do invoices when you don't pay them yet, but they're in there. You can select on account and it'll remain in your payables till you pay it. So this one is actually paid. We paid the bill today. So I'm adding the receipt and assigned it to number 4 and it's done. Now the not sure part. Okay, so now this was done and
That
your
does show up on
accountant
your P&L.
or bookkeeper.
Big ol', I'm not sure about it.
Your accountant or bookkeeper is looking at your P&L or working on your reconciling or whatever they're doing, and they see the not sure's, because you know what? You want people to keep working. You don't want to hold up shop just because you don't know where to expense something. When you look at your expenses, there comes the not sure's. You can build those up, have somebody doing data entry or whatnot, and you can deal with all them later. So you can click on not sure within your P&L, and it'll have lists of all the not sure's. Sometimes, just because I don't want to drop too much on people when you're training, I'll tell them, put in not sure's. Put in not sure's for everything. And then later, you know, when you're feeling more comfortable with sales, when you're feeling more comfortable with expenses, when you're feeling more comfortable with deposits, okay, are you ready to learn something else? Okay, and then I'll show them. Let's build your account types. How do you want it? How does your accountant want it? What do you need to do? And we'll go back later and we'll start fixing it, because it's much easier, because the meat of the stuff is there. You just have to fix the one line. So we're going to say we're to that point. Okay, we went through the P&L, we clicked on the not sure, and we go to edit.
So technically, she hasn't created that new bucket yet called,
Not yet.
you know, like some sort of utility type deal.
So now we went into that not sure category, and it could be any expense, whatever you created. We're going to go to the middle section of where we expense it out and edit. Right here, there's going to be a link that says you add an edit type.
If
Go
you
ahead
have
and
the
click.
permission, that's
Right.
for permission.
This is very, you have to be up there. No. Okay, so these are the generic,
How high was that?
kind of general,
I'm just kidding.
like up there. Not up here, just
Okay.
like up there. But these are like the general ones that are basically within Adilas once you get it, which I think is awesome because it gives you something to go by. I mean, you can already start putting in a fee, a transfer. You have the not sure, which I love. Reimbursements, you know, it has stuff that you start with. Inventory, that's a big one. So we're going to say, we're going to create a new one. Remember, all we did was we just hit add or edit the type. So we're going to say, we're going to create a whole new, not account, we're going to create a grouping like utilities or something. Also, Adilas already has tons of these things in here. They're already assigned to the account types are assigned. Like this is a normal expense, it's a fixed expense, and it's a fee. This is a normal expense, it's a semi-fixed expense, and it's a contribution or donation. I mean, it already built a lot of these things in there for you, which is awesome because you rarely have to add your own account type. This is an account type. If you wanted to add an account type, you could, and then you could therefore select, okay, well, is this account type a normal expense or a special expense? Or is it a normal expense but it's fixed? Or is it normal and it's semi-fixed? You can create those account types if you absolutely have to, if it's not in there, right here.
Actually, it's under Manage Account Groupings. There's a link at the top. So if you click on that, this kind
You
of
can
takes
see
you
them all.
into the deeper
Add
level
it there.
where you could create your path. So remember, when you look at your P&L, it breaks it into multiple layers. But basically, eventually, it becomes a 5 deep layering and stacking system. So that's how. So instead of just saying a T account and giving it a number, you're basically saying, okay, you belong to this, and you belong to this, and you belong to this, and it kind of creates this virtual path to it. Anyway, so.
Yep. So I'm going to back up though, and I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to say that this is
Oh yeah,
for
fixed expense utilities. Yeah.
utilities. And I'm going to say this is specifically for telephone and internet. And you make your asterisk field here. You have to fill out everything with an asterisk, and you're going to say, maybe, because there's another person that usually puts this left, maybe, expense all telephone and internet. You have to put something, so might as well put that.
This
It already-
never shows up anywhere unless you want to physically look at, like, what are your accounts. Like, say you were cryptic on your naming, and the description will actually say, oh, use this for
That's what you put there.
this step. Yep.
And then you're just going to make it active. Say you had this account type, and you know what, then later on, you actually met with your accountant, and they're like, oh, that's just too ridiculous. You know, you have one travel that says lodging, you have one account type that says travel for gas, you have one that says travel for airfare. Let's just make one travel, and it's anything relating to travel. You know, you could deactivate a specific grouping or whatnot, and you can just make one travel. And you can say in the notes, expense all travel, lodging, gas, airfare. You know what I mean? You can manipulate those later, and you just add it. That's going to throw it down to the bottom. And now it flips you back to the expense. Now that you created it, you just edit and you select it. Telephone. So now what's that going to do to your P&L? Go to your other tab. I actually had it open in this tab, which I could have went and I'll show you another trick. But you can look at your P&L now, and it'll tell you your expenses at the bottom, telephone and internet. Now you don't have any not sures. As you start fixing your not sures will be there. So I know that this type of accounting is in chart of accounts or whatever your groupings is not what a lot of people are used to. So for you to be telling them to use the not sure and just go, plug it in, learn it, repetition is kind of like hard sometimes. But once they see that once they start using the system, you build confidence. And once you build confidence, then you're not afraid to do stuff. So you'll start doing it, and then you'll go back and fix things, tweak things, fine tune, cater, change it to however you want it. This is all part of setting somebody up however they want, like you said, like their world, It comes back to all the way from the beginning of the setup to the inventory and the whatnot, to the sales and the accounting and the everything, the P&L, the reporting, everything. So that's another thing I love about the system is that everything you do in the system is ultimately creating your profit and loss statement for you, your income, you're doing everything.